Technology changes all the time, sometimes faster than you'd like. In the near future, you may see QuickBooks screens with a new look. We call the left menu in QuickBooks the navigation bar. This is where you might notice a difference between your QuickBooks and what's in the following training. If the left side of your screen looks like this, then you are in Business View. This view comes with some changes to how QuickBooks looks. If you choose to continue with this view, your QuickBooks will look different than our training and the QuickBooks certification test. Thankfully, it's easy to swap to the view you'll see throughout this course and on the exam. Select the main gear icon and look for the statement "You're viewing QuickBooks in." If you see that you're in Business View, you should switch views, at least for the duration of this training. To switch to the view that matches our training and the certification exam, select Accountant View. QuickBooks takes a few seconds to change the setting and reload the new view. But once the screen loads, your window will show the classic options. This way, you can use the same workflows and screens in your QuickBooks as you'll see in the training. Welcome to your course. Before you go any further in the class, please take a moment to download the course manual. You'll find the manual immediately above this video in a section named Topic Materials. Simply click the link entitled Companion Manual PDF. Wait for the manual to load. Move your cursor to the top right and select the Download button. Choose where you want to download the manual on your computer and save it. Once it's on your computer, you can access it anytime you want, or you could even print it out so that you can have a physical copy. Now you're ready to fully experience the class. Next, you meet your instructor.
Hi, my name is Austin Dietrich, and I'll be the instructor you see throughout this training. I'll pop in from time to time to set the context and to give you the why behind what you're about to learn. You'll also see me when a subject requires a little extra explanation. After the first few topics of this chapter, you'll hear another instructor, Jeff Morris. In fact, you won't see him. But he will be the instructor for most of this course. Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, this is Jeff, and I look forward to guiding you step by step through QuickBooks. I really wanted to say hi on camera, but the decision about who appeared on camera was based on a competition of neckwear. I thought it was a tie. See what I did there? But, well, as you can plainly see, it wasn't. You'll hear from me soon, and I hope you enjoy the course.
Thanks, Jeff. And just to be clear, you did win the competition, but being on camera wasn't a prize. It was the penalty for the loser. Next, you learn about what's covered in Chapter 1. Welcome to Chapter 1. Using any program for the first time can be intimidating and time-consuming. You're often not sure what it can or can't do or how to find help. Because it looks new and different, it takes a while to learn how to move around the program and to find what you need. The goal of Chapter 1 is to reduce intimidation and wasted time, and to introduce you to QuickBooks. First, you learn about the different versions of QuickBooks: online, desktop, Mac. You'll also cover the differences between online subscriptions. Then you learn how easy it is to use QuickBooks as an interface, the different ways to move around this program, and what you see in a typical QuickBooks screen. Mastering QuickBooks has 3 goals. Let's review them. Number 1, to learn the features and capabilities of QuickBooks. In other words, how to use QuickBooks to manage and grow your business. Number 2, learn the most common problems encountered in QuickBooks, and more importantly, how to fix those problems. You haven't used QuickBooks before, that's okay. You'll learn about these problems before you encounter them. Number 3, let's learn tips and tricks. Like mastering QuickBooks is loaded with tips that will save you time and make you more productive. QuickBooks comes in 3 main versions: QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, and QuickBooks for Mac. Each version includes the same basic features like writing checks, paying bills, entering sales, making deposits, and additional features and capabilities to support your growing business. But each version has its own strengths. QuickBooks Online has a number of key benefits, the greatest of which is having your company's information available at any time, as long as you're connected to the internet. QuickBooks Online also has more synergy with apps, online applications, and merchant service companies. You also don't need to install QuickBooks Online to use it. Just open it through your internet browser, like Chrome or Explorer, and log into your company information. QuickBooks Online also works on both PCs or Mac, since it's accessed through your internet browser. QuickBooks Desktop has different advantages. This version of QuickBooks comes in 3 varieties: Pro, Premier, and Enterprise. In addition, Premier and Enterprise are available in industry-specific editions, like Non-for-Profit or the Accountant's Edition. All of these editions work in largely the same way, but they have some extra features or reports that are customized for these specific industries. The advantage to QuickBooks Desktop is its stability and versatility. Intuit has been improving QuickBooks Desktop for more than 2 decades. This is the most popular accounting software in the world. QuickBooks for Mac has the fewest features, and many Mac users opt for QuickBooks Online instead. But if you use a Mac computer and you want a version of QuickBooks that can be installed on your computer, QuickBooks Mac is the solution for you and your business needs. Usually, the most important decision is whether to use online software or desktop software. Unlike some hats, one size does not fit all when it comes to accounting software. QuickBooks Online is designated for businesses of all different sizes and different needs. When you create a QuickBooks company file, you need to choose a subscription type: Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, or Advanced. Each of these subscription types will accurately track your accounts for one company. The differences between them come from the different added resources, like budgets, classes, or projects. Let's look more closely at each subscription style and which one would be best for your business. QuickBooks Simple Start is best suited for a very small business with simple accounting and business needs. Someone tracking, say, their Uber side gig would be well suited for a Simple Start subscription. In addition to all the same features that come with Simple Start, moving up to Essentials gives the subscriber access to bills and accounts payable. Continuing on to QuickBooks Plus is where you see the most robust resources. QuickBooks Plus provides classes, projects, and budgets, and way more reports than the 2 previous subscription types. Advanced is the newest version of QuickBooks Online. Intuit has been adding more and more features to Advanced to allow companies to continue using QuickBooks Online even when they grow beyond that small part of small business. For the purpose of this course, we will be using QuickBooks Advanced, but we will point out the features that are only available in QuickBooks Advanced subscription.
Creating a new account with QuickBooks Online is a very simple process. All we have to do is go to quickbooks.intuit.com. There are 4 different versions of QuickBooks Online: Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, and Advanced. Below each subscription level is a listing of features. We're going to use QuickBooks Online Advanced because it's the most robust in terms of what it can do. Now, whenever we're signing up for a new account, we have to enter our email address. Next, it asks for our mobile phone number. This is not a requirement, but even though this is an optional field, it's still a good idea to enter your phone number because it helps Intuit provide you with the best security possible and make sure that you and only you are accessing your QuickBooks Online account. Next, we'll enter a password. It must include a capital letter, a number, and a special character, for instance, an @ symbol. And sign up. On the following screen, we'll answer 2 simple questions. The first question asks for the name of our business, and in this case, we're Build'em Inc. And then it's going to ask us to describe what our business does. Build'em fits well in the industrial building construction category. And then we'll proceed to the next screen. Here we can see a list of different features of QuickBooks Online. Just select the features that apply to your business, and then click Next. The next screen will ask you what role you play in the company. Your choice can be altered later, so click the button that best fits your situation, and then click Next. And now the dashboard displays our QuickBooks Online company. In the next topics, you learn how to enter information and how to get started in QuickBooks Online.
Now that we have a company file set up, we should start entering data, right? Not yet. Before you get too far into setting up, you should take a look at your settings. You see, all the accounts you're about to set up and the transactions that you want to enter, they will all be drastically affected by your settings. If you don't take time now to set up your settings, you'll have to come back later on and edit all of that data anyway. Most settings are found in the Account and Settings menu, up in your gear icon. 2 important notes about these settings. You don't need to use all of the settings we're about to review, and in some cases, you may not see them at all, because settings vary depending on your subscription level. Let's start with your Sales Settings tab. All of the most important settings are up at the top of the screen. Sales Form Content settings determine what fields show up on your invoices and sales receipts. If you need to track shipping, be sure to check the shipping box and click Save. You'll also see options for sales forms in the Product and Services settings. For example, if you want to track quantity of one of your products, so you can look it up on a report later, check the Track Quantity and Price Rate box. Also, if you want to track inventory levels, like how much you have of an item on stock, select the Track Inventory Quantity on Hand box. Keep in mind that this is only if you want to track quantity of inventory in QuickBooks. Some companies choose to track inventory quantities outside of QuickBooks with other programs. There are a few important expense settings as well. Under the Expenses tab are settings for bills and expenses. If you need to track costs for specific jobs to measure profitability, it's important to turn on the Track Expenses and Items by Customer checkbox. This adds a new field to your expenses and bills so you can record which project you're spending this money on. Also, if you charge customers for those specific job costs, you'll want to make sure you turn on Mark Expenses and Items Billable. This section is also where you can turn on sales tax. We'll cover that in detail later in the class. Finally, there are some important advanced settings that you should check out. What if you need to track different divisions or departments within your company? Then you need to turn on Classes in the Categories section. Let's say you want to track the income and expenses for separate projects. QBO Plus allows you to do this. But if you don't see that Projects tab on the left side of your navigation bar, you need to come in here and turn the Projects setting on. The last setting that we're going to take a look at is Rare. But if you have customers, vendors, or bank accounts that use other currencies, make sure to turn on the multi-currency feature. One note, this feature cannot be reversed, so make sure you need it before you turn it on. There are many other settings to make QuickBooks Online best fit your business, but you'll get to see those in use throughout the class. Remember, make sure that your settings match your business goals, and do it as soon as possible so you can avoid re-entering that data later on. We've already started our QuickBooks Online company, but maybe you have lists of customers, vendors, products and services, or even a chart of accounts that you need to get into this company. What's the easiest way to get this information into QBO? Well, that depends on where you've been tracking your information in the past. Have you been using QuickBooks Desktop for years? Were you using one of those other accounting services? What if you've been tracking your company's data in Excel spreadsheets? Regardless of the method you've been using before, QuickBooks Online has built-in tools to help you import all of this information. First, we're going to show you how to import your data directly from QuickBooks Desktop into QBO. Then you'll learn how to use Excel to import data from other software programs. What if you only know the balances of your accounts? We'll show you how to create accounts in QuickBooks and to add opening balances, with or without using journal entries. If all else fails, you can still manually enter historical transactions to get your new QuickBooks Online company file up to date. Unless you're importing from desktop, none of these other methods will import transaction data. Importing transactions can only be done using QuickBooks Advanced, but we'll show you how to do this in later chapters.
Importing from desktop is a simple process. All you have to do is open up QuickBooks Desktop. And then, from the menu up at the top, click Company, and then Export Company File to QuickBooks Online. It's then going to ask you for your user ID, or you can enter your email address that you used whenever you were signing up for QuickBooks Online. So we can enter that now. You'll be asked to verify your identity. We'll do that by receiving an email or text and then entering a code. We've checked our email and entered the code QuickBooks sent us. Now we'll continue. And here, it's going to ask us to choose an existing QuickBooks Online company to import everything to. Now, it's important to note, whatever data you import from QuickBooks Desktop will replace everything that you currently have in QBO. So if you've input any transactions or any of your list data, this desktop import will replace all of them. Click Continue. And now it tells us that this process may take up to 30 minutes, but in my experience, it's much faster than that. Whenever your online data is ready, QuickBooks Online will send you an email. You'll probably get that within 5 minutes or so. And then you can log in and enjoy your new QuickBooks Online company. It's important to note that whenever you make the move from desktop to online, your old desktop company file remains unchanged. I still have my old company file open. I can enter transactions just like I normally would, but they won't update into my online company if I enter data here. Remember, whenever you go through this process of uploading your desktop data to your QuickBooks Online company, it replaces everything. This import should only be done once you're ready to move over to QuickBooks Online. It's nice to know that you still have access to this old company file on your desktop version. If you're not making the move from desktop to online, it's still easy to bring in lists of your customers, vendors, products and services, and chart of accounts. Just click the gear icon at the top right, and then select Import Data from the Tools list. Here, QuickBooks gives you the option to import bank data, customers, vendors, chart of accounts, and your products and services. Let's look at the bank data option. When importing bank data, QuickBooks accepts CSV, QFX, QBO, and OFX format files. You can get these files from your bank, credit card, or credit union's website. QFX, QBO, and OFX format files are the easiest to import because they were all designed by Intuit. But CSV is the most commonly used because it's a file format used by Microsoft Excel. Click Cancel to go back to your import options. For everything else, QuickBooks only accepts CSV or Excel format files. So if you've been keeping track of your vendors and contractors through Excel files, you're in luck. You can import them very easily with this button. Also, if you've been using an accounting software other than QuickBooks, such as Peachtree or Sage, you can export any of this information from that program to Excel, and then use those files to import the data into QuickBooks Online. We're going to import a list of our customers. Just click Browse, and click the list you want to import. Then, Next. Now you have to map the data that QuickBooks expects to see to what's in your Excel file. For instance, QuickBooks wants to know your customers' email addresses so that it's easier for you to send them invoices and receipts. And in order for QuickBooks to get all that data, it's going to look at the column on the Excel spreadsheet we upload. Right now, QuickBooks thinks it should use data on the main email column of the spreadsheet. Let's switch to the Excel spreadsheet. Here is the column QuickBooks is looking at on the spreadsheet we've uploaded. Make sure that the columns shown here are properly entered here and matched up with the kind of data QuickBooks is looking for. If any of the data QuickBooks looks for isn't present on the spreadsheet, you'll see no match entered here. You can always correct any of QuickBooks' selections by clicking the drop-down arrow and choosing something different. Everything looks good, so click Next. In this screen, QuickBooks shows everything that's being imported. Each set of data gets its own column. And within each column, you see information about a customer. This is the easiest place to make changes to a lot of customers at once. So if you see anything wrong at all, take advantage of this screen. If QuickBooks outlines any of these fields in red, that means the data in that field is wrong somehow. Fortunately, this is easy to fix. Just delete the data that QuickBooks doesn't need. If there are any customers you decide not to import, you can also uncheck their boxes here on the left. We're ready to bring these customers into the company file. So click Import. QuickBooks tells us that our customers were imported. We can find those customers by going to Invoicing and Customers. Note, if you don't see Invoicing, it may be that your label says Sales. They're the same menu, just with a different label. And here is all the data we just imported. Continue to do this with your chart of accounts, vendors, products and services, and even your bank data to get a complete picture of your business in QuickBooks.
When importing lists of your customers and vendors, you'll also be able to bring along their opening balances as part of this process. But you also have checking accounts, credit card accounts, loans, or even fixed assets, maybe more. If your business has been around for a while, you probably want to enter these balances as efficiently as possible. Luckily for you, there are several different ways to bring account balances into QuickBooks Online. You can always enter an opening balance when you first create the account in the chart of accounts. Click the New button and choose the bank type, long-term liability, or other current asset. Then choose the starting date and enter the balance for the date of that account. Typically, the starting date will be the beginning of the year, like January 1st, and the opening balance will be whatever the balance was for that account on that day. The second way is creating a bank or credit card account when you connect your account in the Banking tab. Here you can import all of your transactions from the bank, and QuickBooks will create the opening balance for you. A third way to bring in opening balances is by entering historical transactions. You can use the New button to enter invoices, credit memos, and bills that make up the balances for your customers and vendors. All of these transactions affect your accounting, and by extension, will also affect the balances of your accounts. The final way to enter opening balances is with journal entries. We recommend that only advanced users, or those who are working directly with their accountant, use journal entries. Your accountant can give you a journal entry that will then bring in all of the account balances for all of your accounts at the same time. Use the New button to record this journal entry. You'll then need to input the account name, debit, and credit for each account. Again, journal entries are only suggested for advanced users, and we don't recommend these for average users and average use. But when you have help from an accountant, this is an efficient way to enter all of your accounts' opening balances. Now that we've entered our opening balances, we need to catch QuickBooks up on what has happened from the starting date to today. After all, we entered our starting balance on January 1st, so we need to catch QuickBooks up on everything that's happened since then. Fortunately, QuickBooks makes this easy for us. After all you have to do is enter every transaction that's happened from the beginning of the year till now. Once I say that out loud, I realize maybe that's not so easy after all. You could record each transaction individually through the New menu. Just be sure to enter them in the correct date order. So that way you don't end up taking a customer's payment before you entered their invoice. You might run into some problems. Also, you have two other options. The first option is to speak with your accountant about creating journal entries that would summarize all of the transactions that have happened this year. They could design a single journal entry that summarizes all of the transactions from the beginning of the year till today, or a series of journal entries that summarize each month's transactions. A final and very popular option is to download all of your transactions from the beginning of the year through online banking. Later in the training, you will learn how to use online banking and how it can decrease the amount of time you spend entering data. If you're tracking inventory or you want detailed sales reports, you still need to manually enter and record all of your sales transactions. It's not possible to download sales information from the banking center. No matter how you choose to enter your historical transactions, doing it now will save you stress at the end of the year. This chapter introduces you to the look and feel of QuickBooks Online. Let's talk about what you'll learn in this chapter. First, you'll learn about QBO's three main menus: the navigation bar, the New button, and the gear menu. After that, we'll go over what a transaction is and what QuickBooks needs from you when you're recording one. Last, you'll discover a trick that lets you have multiple transactions, menus, or reports open at the same time. QuickBooks is a powerful tool, but without a solid knowledge of the basics, you could miss the why behind how it works. Any software can look intimidating to a new user. You see so many buttons, you don't even know what they do. You understand what you want the program to do, but you don't know which buttons to push to get that result. The rest of this chapter is designed to help you with that initial feeling of being overwhelmed that comes with a new system. Everything in QuickBooks can be accessed through three main menus in QuickBooks: the navigation bar, the new button, and the gear menu. We'll show you how to use the navigation bar to find something that's already been entered into QuickBooks. Then we'll use the new button to record your new transactions. After that, we'll cover what the gear menu is for and its most important parts. Understanding these three menus helps you keep track of the purpose of QuickBooks and how to follow the proper workflow. Most of the time when you're in QuickBooks, you'll see the navigation bar, or the nav, on the left side of your screen. It's a menu that helps you find things that you've already recorded in QuickBooks. From the nav bar, you can access the Banking Center, which is a list of transactions that have already been downloaded from your bank. These transactions have already happened, and you use the Banking tab to add them into QuickBooks. You also see a list of sales or invoices from the Sales and Invoices tab. Again, these are transactions that have already happened. You can also use this section to check in on your customers by selecting the customer and viewing their balances. You'll learn more about this list later on. From the same menu, you can also view Products and Services list. This lets you look at information about the things your business buys and sells. And we have an entire chapter about that coming up. The Expenses menu is similar to the Sales and Invoices tab. First, you'll find a list of all the expenses you've already recorded in QuickBooks. You can select Vendors and see a list of all of the people and businesses that you've already spent money with. The Payroll section brings you to the Payroll Center. Right now, we don't have the Payroll Center turned on, but we will in a later chapter. The Reports Center helps you run reports on every aspect of your business. At the top, you can see the profit and loss and the balance sheet. But if you want to dig a little deeper and you don't know the name of a report, just search for it up here. Otherwise, you can scroll down and find any report you'd like. The Taxes tab takes you to the Sales Tax Center. You'll only need this tab if you sell taxable products or services. Then there's the Accounting tab, which shows you your chart of accounts. This is the hub of your accounting for your business. It's crucial that your chart of accounts is laid out properly. We have an entire chapter for you coming up. The Apps tab keeps track of any third-party applications that you've connected to QuickBooks Online. Not every business uses apps, but they can be helpful in extending the capabilities of QBO. The app listing here, you can find any third-party app that might be useful for your business. In the next topic, you learn about another important feature, the new button. The navigation bar is great for looking up things that have already happened. But what happens when you want to add something new? For that, you use the New button. The New button lets you record new transactions into QuickBooks at any time. When you click the New button, you'll see a list of transactions that you can record. The transactions are separated into categories, and it makes it a little easier to find what you need. Note that your new menu might look a little different than what you see here. When you signed up for QBO, you were asked what role did you serve in your business. If you chose that you were the owner, your new menu looks like this. It does all the same things as the other new menu, but the options are phrased or labeled a little different. If you'd like to switch from the one new menu to the other, select the gear icon, then Account and Settings. In the advanced settings, you can change your user view. Right now, this menu is pretty daunting, but by the end of the training, you'll understand when to use each of these transactions. The third place that you find what you're looking for is the gear menu. This is where you set up things like your account settings, users, and sales forms. All of these are very important, but they're not the kind of thing that you access on a daily basis. For example, reconciliations are usually performed once a month, so you only need to open this menu when your bank sends you your monthly statement. Budgeting is usually done once a year or whenever you start a new project. The account and settings are things that you use a lot, but only set up when you start your QuickBooks. Once they're there and set, you usually leave them alone. In fact, we often call the gear icon the set it and forget it menu because it's used so infrequently. The things that you find in the gear menu are very important, and they have a dramatic impact on how you use QuickBooks, but it's not designed for day-to-day use. So far, you've learned a lot about how to set up your company, but this is a good time to take a step back and think about why you use QuickBooks. At its core, QuickBooks is bookkeeping software. Bookkeeping is the process of collecting past financial exchanges into an organized history. Think of bookkeepers like financial historians. Regular historians collect the stories of people and events from the past. Bookkeepers do the same thing, but the stories they collect are about the financial transactions of your business. So, what is the end goal of QuickBooks? To help you make business decisions and to navigate your company's financial future. How do transactions fit into this goal? If you accurately track your transactions, then you'll end up with an accurate financial history. If you enter limited or inaccurate transactions, then the information you get out of QuickBooks will be just as limited or inaccurate. You'll spend a lot of this class looking at and entering transactions. As you continue, keep that in mind, that transactions are the entire reason to use QuickBooks. If information isn't recorded on a transaction, you won't be able to find it on a report in the future.
The first example we'll look at is a sales transaction. Select New and then Invoice. You record an invoice when you charge a customer for a product or service and get paid later. An invoice can be sent through email or printed out and given to a customer. Let's take a look at this transaction. The first thing you see on the invoice is the customer field, and this is the who of the transaction. In the middle, we see a lot of information. The most important thing here is the date, because that determines when the income shows up on financial statements. It also helps QuickBooks know when payment is due. This is the when of the transaction. Towards the bottom, you see the product and service area and a description. This is the area where you describe what you're charging a customer for. This is the what of the invoice. At the top right, you see the balance due. This is the how much. The four elements of any transaction are who, when, what, and how much. Let's close the invoice and look at a different transaction. Let's go back to the New button and look at a check. You enter a check in QuickBooks when you write a physical handwritten check in the real world, or when you want QuickBooks to print a check for you. Checks are very different from invoices. For one thing, a check is a record of spending money rather than recording income. But even though they're very different, the forms are almost identical. This is a big advantage to using QuickBooks Online because nearly all the forms look alike. Just like on the invoice, the who of the transaction is at the top left. Then you see when you wrote the check. And then you see what you spent your money on. Finally, you see how much the check was for. Once you've learned how to enter one transaction, you've pretty much learned how to enter them all. The same four parts are needed for invoices, sales receipts, checks, bills, or any other transaction in QuickBooks Online. In the next topic, you learn a trick for opening multiple tabs in your browser.
QuickBooks Online is a powerful software with many capabilities. But if you're used to desktop version of QuickBooks, you may be disappointed to see that QuickBooks Online only shows one window at a time. This is a limit faced by all web-based programs. Luckily, there's a simple solution to this: multiple tabs. Most web browsers let you right-click on a link or a page and open that link in another tab. This trick allows you to have many screens open for the same company file. This feature can be used throughout QuickBooks to open multiple tabs, even with multiple transactions. But remember, you can only be logged into one QBO company file at a time. The goal of this chapter is to become familiar with lists and basic list management techniques. Lists are special databases in QuickBooks that organize information about the people and businesses you buy things from, your customers, the products and services you sell, and more. The most important thing to remember about lists is that they help you save time in several ways. They store information about the people and businesses you work with, so you can record transactions more quickly. They organize your reports so you can track sales and purchases very easily. And they help you find transactions that you've previously entered. Also, they let you track who owes you money and who you owe money to. Throughout this chapter, you'll learn about the benefit of using lists and how to customize them to best fit your business. First, you need to learn about the two types of QuickBooks lists. There is the names list, and there are other lists. After that, you'll discover how names lists help you organize the people and businesses you work with. Like most things in life, lists do have rules that you should abide by. You'll learn about those rules and how you can work around them. Finally, you'll learn to create and customize lists by adding entries, editing existing entries, and deleting and even merging other entries. Next, you'll get an overview of what lists are and the different types of lists in QuickBooks Online. Lists come in two varieties: names lists and other lists. Let's talk about the differences and similarities between these types of lists. Names lists help you organize the names of your customers, vendors, and employees. Customers are people and businesses that pay you for your products and services. You might call these people clients, guests, tenants, or even donors, but in QuickBooks, they're all customers. Not every business needs to track their customers, but if you want to track how much someone owes you, or you want to see how much someone has already paid you over time, then you will need to set them up on the customers list. Vendors are the people and businesses that you pay for their products and services. You might call these people suppliers or even service providers, but again, in QuickBooks, they're all called vendors. If the owner of your business ever needs to put money into or take money out of the business, you might even set them up as a vendor. Vendors are important if you need to track how much you have paid to specific people or businesses over time, and if you want to track how much you owe in unpaid bills. One more point: vendors are absolutely necessary if you plan to file 1099s. If you pay a contractor and need to send them a 1099, they also need to be on the vendors list for QuickBooks to be able to calculate those payments on their 1099. Employees are your regular W-2 employees. The employees list lets you track their personal and tax details, as well as many other things like compensation, deductions, and other necessary payroll information. If the owner is paid like a regular employee, they can also be set up on the employees list. All three of these lists are names lists, and they have special rules that you'll learn about here in just a little bit. Names lists are found in special centers that are designed to help you work in QuickBooks on a day-to-day basis. Over the next few topics, you'll learn about these centers and how they help you organize information and work with the people that are most important to your business. All of the lists that are not names lists are other lists. Some examples include the class list, and that lets you divide your business into departments or funds. There's also the products and services list, which helps you organize information about the things that you sell or the services you provide to your customer. There's the chart of accounts, which is used to categorize all of your financial transactions. Other lists are a little bit more simple or basic than the names lists. They don't have special centers designed for everyday use, but that's okay, because you don't normally interact with other lists on a day-to-day basis. Regardless of their type, most lists work in the same way. But we will point out when you need to do something different in a names list versus an other list.